Looking out of the window of our beautiful glass mansion, it was crazy to think that this was my life. I went from working as a CNA, barely making rent, to getting married within months. Inside of our home, beneath the vaulted ceilings adorned with crystal chandeliers, I sipped my morning matcha, my diamond ring catching the sunlight. To the outside world, I had it all: wealth, beauty, a handsome, rich husband, a life straight out of a dream. But the reality was, I felt like I was living in a cage. My husband, Jonathan, a real estate investor, had given me everything except for happiness, respect, and freedom. We met one night at a lounge in Los Angeles. He was like my knight in shining armor. During our dating phase, I wanted for nothing. He paid my rent, bought a car for me. Dinners and shopping was a normal weekend thing for us. It was nothing short of amazing. We had now been married for 4 years, and every aspect of my life had been micromanaged. The way I dressed, the events I went to, the color of the flowers in the foyer. It was that bad. This was not love anymore. It was control. My closest confidant was my personal assistant, Tracy. Tracy is a fabulous woman in her 20s and was one of the only people that truly understood what I was going through. I was too embarrassed to tell my family and friends because it looked like me and Jonathan had the perfect life. Everyone was always telling me how lucky I was, as if he was the prize and I should be grateful. But if they only knew. One day, Tracy and I were in my home office getting some work done. I took a break to get some air, and I decided to check the mail while I was out there. One of the envelopes contained an invitation to a gala fundraising event hosted by one of Jonathan's friends. I rolled my eyes and walked in the house. When I got back to my office, I sat down at my desk and stared into space. Then I just blurted out, "I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. This is not life. This is a performance. I haven't seen this man in 3 days. Everything I have is tied to this man." At that moment, I knew that was an excuse. I was exhausted, but I was not at the breaking point to leave. Honestly, I was scared. I was scared of going back to my old life, barely getting by financially. Unbeknownst to Jonathan, I had been saving my money. I had an online store that was doing very well, and since I didn't pay any of the bills, I managed to save all of the money from that business without Jonathan knowing. I had also begun selling pieces of my expensive jewelry and gifts that Jonathan would give me when he would apologize from feeling guilty. I think it was his way of clearing his conscience. Over the years, I built a nice nest egg. I was determined to reclaim my independence, but Jonathan's constant surveillance made it nearly impossible. Every transaction, every move I made, everything was scrutinized, which is why I didn't touch anything in our joint accounts unless it was for the household. I knew he could see where all of the money was going. One evening, we attended a dinner party. One of our friends was hosting it, and it was a whole vibe. It was a lot of the city's elite, a lot of celebrities. It was a good time. A little bit into the night, Jonathan decided to humiliate me by yelling at me for talking too long to one of the men at the party. We had both known this man for years, but Jonathan and his insecurities did not care. He went completely off on me. A couple of people started looking as he yelled at me like a child. It took everything in me not to cuss him out, slap the shit out of him, and flip over a table, but I didn't. I just walked out of the room. That night, as Jonathan slept, I made my decision. I slipped into our walk-in closet, retrieved the designer duffel bag that I had secretly packed, and crept down the marble staircase. I paused at the front door, heart pounding. Leaving without saying goodbye? I spun around to see Jonathan standing in the shadows. His arms were crossed. "I'm done, Jonathan," I screamed. "I can't live like this anymore." He stepped closer to me, his expression icy. "You think you can just walk away? Everything you have is because of me." I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Everything I am is because of me." His laughter was cold and menacing. "You'll come crawling back. Without me, you're nothing." He walked closer to me and grabbed my arm and tried to pull me towards him. I started to panic, but I was not turning back now, and I was prepared to fight him if necessary. I yanked my arm back from him and pushed the door open. I ran out into the crisp night air. All I could hear was the sound of my feet running against the stone driveway. As I drove away, the lights from our house fading behind me, I felt an unfamiliar sensation: hope. I didn't know what was next, but I knew for the first time in years, I felt free. The next morning, family and friends called and texted me nonstop. Jonathan denied everything, of course, just to keep his carefully constructed image intact. But I did not care. I found myself somewhere far away from him, far away from his money, his control, and the misery that I went through for years. I sipped my coffee in a small cafe, enjoying the taste of my new beginnings. Living in a cage disguised as a mansion was behind me, and the world was now mine to explore. I rented an apartment in a coastal town about 2 hours away from the city. It was nothing like the mansion I had left behind, and honestly, I was really happy. It was mine. It was my new, cozy, one-bedroom apartment. I was happy to be out of the city. I wanted time to myself. No parties, no social media, no having to deal with conversations with people that I already knew. I just wanted to be with myself. For the next few weeks, I barely left my apartment. I just wanted to immerse myself in the plans that I had for the future. I meditated, I watched TV, I worked out, just whatever I felt like doing. With the funds I had accumulated during the marriage, I finished furnishing my apartment. I would treat myself to spa days and some nice dinners. I also enrolled in a design course at a nearby community college. I had always loved interiors, and I knew that my eye for detail could be more than just a hobby. As the weeks turned into months, Jonathan's shadow still loomed. His lawyers sent letters. His family kept trying to contact me on his behalf, telling me how sorry he was. I knew he was not trying to win me back. This was about power. I didn't respond, of course. Instead, I just pressed on, learning to navigate life without the safety net of his wealth. As time went on, I met some amazing friends in the town I was living in, and I even went on a casual date with a really nice guy. Nothing serious, but it felt really good to have new friendships. One afternoon, as I walked along the beach, my phone buzzed. It was text messages back to back from my family and friends with links of news articles. Turns out, Jonathan had been arrested for real estate scams and a host of other things. His entire empire was crumbling under the weight of his greed. I didn't know anything about his business dealings because he never allowed me access to any of his professional business. Seeing this was actually pretty shocking. I stared at my phone with a mix of emotions swirling within me. For so long, I had feared him, let his power dictate my decisions. I let him rule over everything that had to do with me, all just to keep a fantasy lifestyle. I'm so glad that I came to my senses when I did. The man who once loomed over my life was now powerless. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the sun dip below the horizon. I wasn't the woman that I was when I entered that marriage. I was someone new. I was someone wiser. I was someone stronger. I was someone that knew my worth. I remember those days being a CNA, barely making rent, but you know what? I was happy. But now I have the maturity and the tools and wisdom to make all of the money that I want and to be happy with it and to be happy with myself. I would never sacrifice myself again for materialistic things. And now, for the first time in a very long time, I truly feel happy with me.